Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears. Thank you for being here today. In my video today, I will be working with the Trinity Stamps Cupcake card die set. This is from their Sweet Summer Celebration 4th birthday release that just released this month. And here's a look at the Cupcake card die set. It is a die set that will make a card shaped like a cupcake, and it will be an A2 size card. You can also use this die set on the front of a card. There's also a die in here that has the word wish, and there are some layering dies for the pieces of your cupcake. So you have the cake part, the candle, the cherry, the frosting. This is such a fun die set to work with. If you are interested in any of the products that I'm going to use in my video today, I will have links down in the description box of this video. So feel free to head on down there and take a look at those links. So I need to, before I start working on my card projects, I need to separate all of the dies from the main die. So all of these layering pieces and extra dies, I'm just using my wire cutters to cut apart so that I have the main cupcake die to work with. And you see that main cupcake die there on the table. So I'm going to start out my first card by making a shaped card. So I'm taking a piece of white cardstock and I'm putting the cupcake die. This is the actual base of your card. I'm running it through my die cutting machine and you can see that it cuts out the shape of the cupcake. And just to give you an idea of how big this die is, it's about 8¼ inches by 5¼ inches. So this will fit in a standard 6-inch wide machine. So that die will actually put a score line where the fold needs to go, and that is your card base. So now I'm going to take a piece of pattern paper from the Trinity Stamps Double Scoop paper pad, and I'm going to use the pattern paper for some of the layering pieces on my card. But first I want to show you how amazing this paper pad is. You can see that it actually has pattern papers in here that look like real ice cream. There's some chocolate and some vanilla and some sprinkles. There's even some paper that looks like mint chip ice cream. Here's some more sprinkles and some more chocolate. That could be like a lemon or some cotton candy, and here is some frosting with some sprinkles, and I love that multicolor cake with the frosting, and then here are some ice cream cones. So this pattern paper is actually new to Trinity Stamps. It is part of their Sweet Summer Celebration release. So I am going to be using some of this paper on my cards today because I think that some of these designs work perfectly with the cupcake card. So here is one of the papers that I'm going to be using. Now this die that I'm using is the actual cake part of the cupcake. So I'm taking this die and you can see that it is small enough to actually just cut out some of the cake on this cake pattern paper. So I'm just putting it face down here on my cake pattern paper. I'm going to choose to use the red layer, and you could actually die cut and make several cupcake cards using all 5 of these colorful layers of cake. So here I'm just going to choose to use the red one. So I went ahead and ran it through the die cut machine, and here's what it looks like. And then I'm going to take this frosting paper and I'm going to use the frosting die, and I'm just going to put it on this paper so that the bottom part, it actually covers the sprinkles and the top part covers the frosting. I wanted it to look like my frosting on my cupcake is decorated with sprinkles on the bottom, so that is what my die cut piece is going to look like. And for the cupcake wrapper, I simply die cut it out of some solid blue cardstock, and I'm going to be taking some Copic markers just to add some shading to it. So I'm using my B28 marker and I'm just adding some shading along the edges of that cupcake wrapper. And that cupcake wrapper also has some embossed lines going down, the vertical lines. So I'm just going to use the marker and just add some shading there on those vertical lines as well. Now you could also, if you choose not to use a marker, you can use some ink and do the same thing. And on my next card, I'm actually going to come in with an ink pad and add some shading with the ink pad rather than the marker. So here I'm just coming in with the B23. I'm just trying to blend some more of this out and add some more shading. And then when I finish, I'll take the candle die that came in the die set, and I wanted this candle to be multicolored, so I'm going to go ahead and place it on the pattern paper where I want to die cut it out. This is actually the reverse of the cake paper. And I'm actually strategically positioning it so that that candle is only die cutting the actual frosting and not the cake. So that way I can use the cake part of that pattern paper on another cupcake card. And then here's the flame. I die cut it out of some orange and some yellow cardstock. I'm just going to add some ink to the end of the, or to the edges of the yellow cardstock. And then I'm going to glue the orange piece right on top of the yellow piece. And then I'll be able to add that to the top of the candle. I want to thicken up the layers on that candle, so I just die cut that candle out of a pink piece of cardstock, and I'm just going to add it to the back of the pattern paper. I wanted just solid pink on the back side, and then I'm just going to add another layer here to the back of the wick just to make this a little bit more sturdy, because part of this candle is actually going to be coming off of the card. So here I'm just going to take my craft knife. I'm putting a little slit in the top of the frosting, and I'm going to stick my candle right inside of that slit. You can see how part of that wick there is actually going to be coming off the top of that card. So that's why I wanted to thicken it up. Okay, I'm just adding some double-sided adhesive tape there just to hold it in place. And then I'm going to use my glue and glue down the candle to the front of the frosting. And now I'm ready to add these layers to my card base. So I'm going to add glue to the back of the cake wrapper and add it to the card front. Next, I'm going to add the cake part of that cupcake. And then I'm going to add the frosting right to the top. And I just love how realistic looking this cupcake is using that pattern paper. Next, I'm going to die cut the word wish out of this pattern paper that has these multi-colors. I chose some of the paper that has some of the same colors as the cupcake. I'm actually using the back of the cake pattern paper. And I did put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back, and then I ran that through my die cutting machine. So I'm going to pop these letters out, and I'm just going to set them aside for a few minutes while I finish up the rest of the sentiment. So I have this stamp set that is called Simply Sentimental Birthday from Trinity Stamps. And it has all of these birthday phrases, and I'm going to use the Make a Wish phrase. There is also a coordinating die set available, which I will use on my next card, but I just wanted to pull that out here just so you can see it, and it will die cut the larger words. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp out Make a Wish on some white cardstock, and then I'm just going to use my scissors, and I'm just going to cut around that in a rectangular shape. And since I already die cut the word wish, I don't need the word wish on this sentiment, so I'm just going to cut that off. And I'm going to go ahead and add my die cut word wish to my cupcake card, and then I will add the rest of the sentiment above it. So my final sentiment will say, make a wish. And that is just how easy it is to make a card shaped like a cupcake. I love this card. And using that pattern paper really adds a lot to this card. Of course, if you don't have the pattern paper, you can always use other pattern paper or solid color cardstock to finish up your card. Okay, so for my next card, I'm going to take the cake portion of that die. I'm going to have some blue cake this time, and I'm going to use this pattern paper to die cut the frosting. Just to add some more depth to the card, I am going to take some salvaged patina distress oxide ink. I'm adding it to the top where that teal color is in the pattern paper, and then I'm taking some squeezed lemonade ink and I'm adding it to the yellow portion of that frosting. Next, I'm taking some detailed blending brushes, and I'm using the same color ink, but I'm going over some of the embossed lines on that frosting die just to add a little bit more texture and dimension to that frosting. I'm going to do the same thing with the salvaged patina ink. I'm just following along some of those embossed lines just to add some more interest to the card. Next, I die cut the cupcake wrapper out of some solid pink cardstock, and this time I'm just using a blending brush and some of the Distress Oxide Kitsch Flamingo ink and just adding some ink to the edges. So this is another option if you don't want to use markers to add shading. And I'm just using my detailed blending brush again just to come down and add some shading along the vertical lines in that cupcake wrapper. I took the Cupcake card base die and I die cut it out of white cardstock, but because I'm not making a shaped card, I'm actually going to use my paper trimmer and cut it down the middle at the score line. So now I'm ready to add those layers to the white cupcake shape. So I'll start with the cake wrapper, and then I will add the blue piece of the cake right above that. And that piece of cake, it actually has some lines there that actually fit into the cupcake wrapper. So you'll be able to easily see how it fits in place with the cupcake wrapper when you piece it in there. It's like a piece of a puzzle. And then add the frosting right on top. For this cupcake, I am going to be using a cherry. The cherry die actually cuts out an outline and the inside piece, so I'm just putting some glue along the outline. I'm going to go ahead and add it to my frosting on my cupcake, and then I'll piece in the inside of that cherry. And I'm going to add a little bit of the salvaged patina ink right below that cherry, just so that cherry looks a little bit more grounded. Just adding a little bit of a shadow there on the frosting. So here I'm going to take a piece of glitter paper. I'm using some hot pink glitter paper from the Scrapbookcom A2 size glitter paper pad. It says the rainbow paper pad. And I'm going to go ahead and add it to my A2 size card front. Next, I die cut a piece of the pattern paper from the paper pad from Trinity Stamps, and I cut it down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'm adding it to the top of this glitter paper. And now I'm ready to add my cupcake to the front. But before I do that, I do need to glue down the stem of the cherry. And then I'm going to glue down the cupcake. So just add glue to the entire back side and add it to my card front. For the sentiment, I'm going to be using the word birthday from the Simply Sentimental Birthday die set. I'm actually using the die that looks like that second birthday stamp, and I'm going to die cut the top die out of some black cardstock, but I am going to put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the black cardstock and then run it through my die cutting machine. So all of these letters will die cut individually and they will die cut as a sticker. So to make it easy for me to get these letters straight on this cupcake, I'm putting down the shadow die, and then I'm going to piece in all of those individual letters into the shadow, into the right spot there on that shadow die, and that way I can be certain that they are all lined up perfectly on that cupcake. And I'm also going to be using the stamp Wishing You a Happy from that same stamp set. So I'm going to stamp it down on some white cardstock, and I'm going to cut it out with my scissors in a rectangular shape and then glue it down. I'm going to be using my cupcake sprinkles to add for sprinkles on my frosting. These are the Carousel cupcake sprinkles from Trinity Stamps. So I'm just placing them where I want them, and then I'm going to take my glue and just glue each one down individually. So I hope you liked my cards today. If you did like my video, please give me a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more card making inspiration. If you're interested in any of these products, links will be down in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.